Right, welcome back. We're on to a women's review of the European Dodgeball Championships in Croatia, and everything that happened in that competition. Um, so hopefully you've already seen the first part or the first version of this, which is we covered mixed. If you haven't, go find the link, go watch it now, or rewind and watch it because I know a lot of you skip through to the bits that you want to see. So don't forget to watch it all. Um, I have experience with this. But yes, onto the women's competition. I mean, just a brief summary of it. We had, was it 17 nations this year in women's,
Yes.
which is a massive step up from previous years where we had three groups. We now had four full groups and with two groups with five teams in as well. So massive step up in terms of quantity of teams and also a lot of competition throughout the league of ability as well. So a lot of close games from my perspective as well, and a thrilling knockout stages for all of them. And hopefully we'll get into some of that with some of our guests today. But yeah, first of all, any thoughts on the women's competition from you guys? What were your thoughts?
Okay, first. Yeah, so for me, this year was so exciting because so close, like so much of it, like every exciting. Like particularly once we got to the knockout stages, I don't think there was a single game that I was commentating in the women's section that I wasn't like, this is amazing, this play's been amazing, this has been amazing, and it was just so exciting to see that. It just makes everything more exciting that it's got so much closer. So for me, it was just great because you didn't necessarily have the sort of like score lines. Like obviously you kind of had like Austria and England were still doing very well in the group, but a lot of the games were so much closer. And particularly, I think for me, one of my favourite games was actually the third place playoff, and that was just back and forth the whole way. And yeah, I think some of the women's games that I saw this year were some of my favourites for the entire tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would also have to say we're really happy with growth of the women's tournament. Now being 17 teams is amazing. Having the four groups, having new teams joining in, and usually in the past, when new countries and new nations joined in, they didn't always start with the women's to bring. So it usually has been just okay. We're going to start bringing a men's team, then later maybe a mixed team and that kind of stuff. So, but we're at a certain point where we're almost equal in participating teams all throughout the three competitions, which is definitely a main goal from an EDF point of view to say, okay, we want to reach within the next 3 years, we want to reach the level that we have each nation compete with other three teams in each category. So I think we're getting there really fast. And yeah, as Emily said, so the quality is also really on the rise and yeah, a lot of close games and a lot of really high level games that have occurred in Euros this year.
I'd obviously like to parrot what Emily and Max have just said, but from a personal perspective, we always have these conversations in the men's game about what players would you say are like the greatest of all time, and it's no longer being the conversation is just stuck on the men's game because we're getting some of the women who are just going to be eternal greats, and we're starting getting personalities from each team that are out there. And then if you think about it really on kind of like a deeper level, if you're looking at a team and they don't have one or two personalities, it's probably because they're just quality across the board. And for me, as somebody that follows the sport kind of the way I do, I love I love talking to people and I love having conversations with people. And to know that there are those one or two people on each team that are the person that the kind of the team not revolves around, but we have these talismans, and we said it quite a few times in commentary. But to see that part of the women's game be on the rise, where we're having such dominant forces with some of the women's players, it's insane to see, and it's great to see that the personal quality and the personal development of those players is just on the up and up and up, and it's great to see.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and also from a results perspective, if we look at the results that have occurred in this competition, again, also as well as in the mix, we did have surprise results that I think not many people thought they would be. We have, again, obviously the final England-Austria that has been the final for the last, I don't know, however many years. But after that, so the competition is getting really close, and it's anyone's game to a certain degree between those places, and this is really good for the competition. And the question will be, okay, when will this bulk of teams then catch up to the top two, and then we have really open tournaments all the way up to the number one spot. So that I think is a really fun thing to look forward to, and to see who it's gonna be. Can it be Italy, Sweden, Czech Republic, maybe some new nations, Netherlands? So there's good improvement on our levels, and it was really fun to see this time.
Yeah, it was a really they were just so. I was just thinking back and just realised who we've got on the call. There's so many games I want to get into, because there were moments in at all levels where you just thought, wow, like did I just see what happened? Because like all the group stages were, they had some really competitive games in, and then even
But Nick, to visualize, if we could put up the Group C of the competition, just from the group stages. I mean, if you just look at the group results there, it's really hard to wrap your mind around to say, obviously, okay, England takes the top spot, so that was to expected. But you have then three with the same amount of points fighting for the second spot to go to the top 8, to the quarterfinals. And nobody, I think, would have expected it to be like that, especially with Hungary being a newer team, and France having younger players, and Wales having kind of the established players. But to look at that, how close that was, and just 1 or 2 or 3 sets per game made the difference to say if you're second or fourth in this group.
Yeah, especially considering I think Wales, England, and France were in the same group last year as well, and the results went quite a bit different for them. I can't remember who else was in that group, so apologies if someone on this call knows that. But yes, but it was good competition. I think it was interesting to see how some of the results fell and how hard some of them went. And I think one of the dynamics that we haven't really talked about, but is how some teams just went full pace on that first day, and were like, these are the games that we're going to target. This is what we need to go for. And Hungary just came out of the blocks absolutely firing. They played so well against Wales. There was a couple of others, Croatia in the mixed as well, where that first day they just went absolutely for it, took all the games by surprise. And then by the second day, you saw some teams adjust and adapt to the lineups and how they were playing. But that first day was really, a lot of people going back to their hotels a little stunned after what they'd seen, I imagine. But yes, hopefully one team that stunned, unless there's anything else anyone wants to say, I was going to say let's go on to Linnea. But hopefully one team that aren't too stunned, or at least stunned in a good way on how they've done. Linnea, how are you? And great result, I imagine, for everyone at Sweden.
Hi, thank you for having me. We're thrilled. We're super happy about the results this year. My goal for this year was to come 4th place. I talked to the coach at the beginning of the year, and she was like, "What's your expectation?" And I was like, "Oof, fingers crossed. Like, if we can get 4th place, that would be a dream." And yeah, we got there.
Yeah, I mean, you had some tough battles to get there. But first of all, going to the group stages, you had an interesting group to begin with Scotland there as well. And your friends Belgium, that I believe. Oh no, sorry, getting confused. Sweden, topping their group, incredible group, group performance. Oh, apologies for that. That's so embarrassing. But yes, tell us about the group stages. Go on, I'll let you talk.
No, we were super happy about the we got, which didn't include Austria and Scotland, as you brought up. We had Croatia, that we didn't know anything about really, because they're so new. We had Spain, that are also developing quickly, and Czech Republic, and also Switzerland, that we have met before. and I think we got a good start. It was a little hard in the game against Croatia. We didn't expect them to be that good that they were, so we felt the sweat a little, but in the end it went well. Um, and then I think for us as a team, we were super happy about the Swiss game, the second day, because we really felt that we came together as a team then. We really played as a team, and from then on, it was just, I don't know, the stars were aligned this year. So it was super. And of course, our absolute highest achievement was to beat the Czech team this year. We've had so many years that we're like, we can do it, but we're never quite there. But this year we were really mentally prepared, I'd say.
Court one centre stage, so quite a big platform to finally set the record straight.
Definitely. Yeah, it was super cool.
Yeah, sorry, go on, Emily.
Yes, I was going to say, so with, obviously you've just said that you wanted to beat them. Was that something that you focused on with your training prior to the tour? Like, as soon as you knew that you had them in the groups, was that something that you kind of planned for that game?
Yeah, so we had this year 2 new coaches for the women's team. We have Lena, that is really, really good. She plays with me in my club. She's quite new to dodgeball, but she has a super good analytical mind. And we also have Oscar Svanlöv that he used to play, but he's injured. So he was kind enough to coach the women's team this year, and he was really an asset from the like social and emotional part. And those two as a team have been working a lot on analyzing the other teams, and figuring out what strengths we have to like counter their strengths, and to really like make the game ours. And I think, yeah, they had different setups, like lineups for different games, and we really got different tasks to focus on during the different games. So they did their job, and then we did our job on court, trying to keep the head cool.
Yeah, and then obviously, like moving on from out of the group stages into your knockout phases, your first sort of your quarterfinal against the Netherlands was a very tight quarterfinal. How did you find that game?
Nerve-wracking. It was, I mean, personally, I felt it could have gone either way. They were super good. They were so strong. Um, and we had a little struggle in the beginning of the game. I feel our mixed women that played with the mixed team just came from their game, I think against Spain, where they lost, came in and they had to like reset and go on with a clear head. And I think it took us a little while to get into that game, but in the end we like supported each other and really gave it our everything.
That was one of the most tense and emotional quarterfinals I've witnessed.
Yeah.
Because if I remember correctly, it came down to the 90-second set, and quite literally a leap of faith, which just wasn't quite in time from the Netherlands. You did just enough to see it off, and a very well managed 90-second set. So I mean, going into that sort of that, finishing off a match like that's been so close either way, you see yourself tied with 90 seconds set to go. How, as a team, what did the coaches say? Did you have time to talk to the coaches when you were lining up? What was the thoughts that you'd done in training or whatever to go, this is a 90-second set? You guys held your nerve. You were very formulaic in making sure that you were one person up at the very end. How, what was going through your guys' heads?
Great questions. I I can't answer it. It was really like I think I was, if you watch the videos, like I came on in the last, we were missing one person. I just ran on court because we were really like scattered. And I think personally I was a little bit in a fog because of everything that was going on, and we just it was it was a switch. We just gave it our best, and it was just a different gear that we went into to finish that last set. Yeah, it was very different than from with the game against Italy, for example, because like speaking only from my performance, it was against the Netherlands. The last set was I did good things. I didn't do too many mistakes. I took people out. But against Italy, then that got into my head, and I did two huge mistakes instead in getting out. So it's really, it depends on the day, how much like you've eaten, how your energy levels are, and if you can keep the cool.
Well, looking at the scores you've had, that's 3 games you've either won or lost by a set. And we were chatting with in the mixed side of things. Meg mentioned about how the mental side of things is just so important, and to be in that situation multiple times. I think Nick just mentioning about the Netherlands game coming down to a leap of faith, and I believe the Italy third, fourth player also having a leap of faith towards the
Yes.
end that may have that gave you the final set to be able to give the opportunity to bring it back. What's kind of your personal approach, and then the squad's whole approach to that? Because those are some really intense situations, and to be on both sides of those results, it's always interesting to see how the squad, how yourself personally. I know you just mentioned about making mistakes and not making mistakes, but yeah, that's just wild to be in those situations so many times.
Also, kind of why I love playing dodgeball. You're always on the edge. And I think that it really helps to have a coach or coaches that keeps the focus, because you're performing, you're having all the adrenaline going in your body. You might have like a psychological battle going on with someone in the other team, and you're trying to like um, do your best and not take too many risks. And I think this year, how boring it might or like it might seem boring to say, but we did have coaches that were very strict with us, that gave us like a plan of the game, and this is what you should do. Now you can start taking risks, and this is like the scores, and this is how much time's left. Now you can go all in. And I think that's something that Sweden hasn't had before, and that we've been working on a lot. And I think the better teams have that also naturally. Um, so I think that helps definitely when you are in those situations and feeling, yeah.
So I guess going into that final day with your third place playoff, kind of what did you, obviously you said you had the good coaching staff, did you have kind of tactics that you wanted to use in that game? Did you kind of analyze any specific players that you wanted to target and things like that prior to the game?
We did. Um, we had, as I said, like we got specific feedback on like our role. What am I supposed to do during this game? One thing with Italy is that it is a very aggressive team. They are standing quite high up and are very quick. Also, really good catchers. So we focused around that and really tried not to give away catches. And also trying to take like make the game our pace. Yeah, like every year, but this year it went a little better.
Yeah, and then obviously you guys performed so well in that third place playoff. It was so back and forth throughout the whole set, and obviously just to miss out in that final minute set, kind of talked about the mental game. Like, how did you manage kind of after that to kind of deal with the fact that you just lost, but the fact that you've done so well as well?
Yes. Personally, I cried a lot. I was so sad. I don't know if you saw it on the stream, but the coach came up to me and she was like directly like, "It's okay." And but also like because in the heat of the moment, you're so close, you want to win it, even though you know that Italy is a better team or has been a better team for many years. It's still hard to lose that. And then we went straight into the locker rooms. We had a talk, and our coach was like, "We celebrate this now. This is the furthest we've ever come. You guys were so good. You don't have to feel bad about this." So it changed, and then after a little bit of crying, it was very good, and we're looking forward to next year.
When chatting with the nine men last year, they always said about how the crowd had such an impact on their final against England. From my perspective, sitting in the crowd, because I wasn't commentating that game, so I got my break and I was just chatting and chilling in the crowd. And the amount of support coming for Sweden was immense, and it seemed that it was from a very personal level as well. It was from a lot of players that knew the Swedish women personally and really wanted them to do well. Not to say that it was kind of anti-Italy, because it completely wasn't. It was 100% in a very positive environment. How did that influence kind of your personal game and the way the team played? Because from my perspective in the crowds, it seemed like it was really pro Sweden and they really wanted you to do well.
Mhm. Yeah, that was massive. I was really the Netherlands were standing on the court next to us, cheering, and that was also like we just beat them, and now they're cheering for us. We're in the same position that they were, and yeah, the whole room was buzzing, and like personally, that was crazy awesome. I do also understand that it like we were the underdogs in that situation, so of course it's going to be a little fun to cheer for that team as well. But I really felt the support, and I think, yeah, it felt amazing. But also, I mean, you're focused on the game. Yeah, I don't know.
Too
Thanks,
focused
I
on the
guess.
dodgeball.
Exactly. Yeah.
Got a game to win. I can't listen to you guys right now. Really
Shush.
appreciate it, but I'll listen to it back on the live stream.
No.
But yeah, what? So yeah, one last question from me was going to be the I think it was the first time this year, but the Scandinavian Cup.
Mm.
How did that help in terms of your guys in terms of development in dodgeball in Sweden and also bringing the Scandinavian dodgeball community together? How do you guys find it as a preparation? I know next year I believe it's sort of kind of wrapped up in the North European Championship, but definitely this year in preparation for Euros and years to come. Yeah, what was that experience like? Was it the first one? I wasn't sure.
It was the first one. It was really fun, and it was super good and helpful for this tournament as well. We are not too many teams in Sweden. I think we have 5 clubs, 6 clubs now, and the national team doesn't get to practice that much together. We had 2 practices, and then a specific practice for the women's team this year, which was super. So 3 practices together. Having that Scandi Cup where you also had Norway and you also had Denmark, 2 new teams. I think it was really helpful for them to prepare for more like a bigger tournament and more competitive playing. Um, for us in Sweden, it was, I mean, we know that the different clubs have different play styles. We kind of know them already. It's more about who can give more on the day, kind of. And I mean, me personally, for me, I moved away from my big club and started a new one down south um, last year, and so we didn't have enough players, so we we joined forces with a different or another club with Ben McAdam, that you might know, and we won gold with that mashup, which I am very proud of. So that was a lot of fun, and yeah, I think it was a great experience in all.
All right, awesome. Thank you. I think with that
Thank you.
we'll move on. But congratulations on a really great performance at Euros.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me, guys.
From the Swedish perspective onto the Italian perspective, welcome, Nicole. How are you?
Hi guys, thank you for inviting me. I'm great. How are you guys?
I think we're doing all right. You know, post Euros blues as always, but you know, we smile through the pain, and we realise that there's more competitions next year, and you know, 2025 in Ireland isn't that far away. It's not too far away. But yeah, how about you guys? I honestly, before Euros, heard nothing about how dodgeball was going for Italy. So, from your perspective, you know, getting ready for Euros, what was going on? And you know, how did you guys prepare?
Honestly, after playing double tournament last summer, because we did the Euros in Holland, and then we played the World Championships in Canada. This year we took it really slowly. Like, we had just a couple of trainings during the summer to prepare for these Euros, and honestly, in my perspective, it was too little. I was a little bit scared of not being prepared, or yeah, just being not athletic prepared. But it ended up pretty good, and we also played a lot in our single clubs. We had obviously the national cup, so yeah.
The big open competition in Pisa as well, the trophy.
Yeah, in May. It was major. We had also then playing. We had a couple of teams from all around Europe, and it was incredible. It was like a really small European tournament, because we played 2 days straight. So yeah, I guess we can call it a little anticipation of the European Champions.
Very good and very exciting. So your group, if I can remember, I'll get the right one this time. It was Group D.
Yeah.
So you had Northern Ireland, or Republic of Ireland, and Norway in your group. Norway, completely new team. I guess you had no idea what to expect from them. But Northern Ireland, they came third last year. I'm sure there was a lot of anticipation for that game. And Republic of Ireland as well. How did you find it?
Yeah, so basically our coach prepared us for obviously we lost last year against Northern Ireland. We placed fourth and they placed third. So it was the match. It was the match of the group division. So we really went total focus into that match. Um, it was Thankfully it was during the second day, because we like to call ourselves diesels. We are diesel. We getting into the matches really slowly. So thankfully it was the second day that the important match was the second day of the tournament. We played Ireland first. From my perspective, we take it for granted, because obviously the result in the first half surprised us, because we were down like 12 points. Hopefully we managed to catch up with that, but it was incredible for the Republic of Ireland. It was an incredible match. We had such a fun. It's always fun playing with them. It's always fun playing with everybody, honestly. But yeah, we were surprised about that match. And Norway, what to say about them? Yeah, it was completely new. So we studied them for the first set. We just saw how they played, and then we went along with it. Our coach took the right decisions. Um, yeah, and the whole set went smoothly, let's say.
So yeah, you had a few very close games throughout the whole tournament. So obviously you had the draw with Ireland. You were won by a set against Northern Ireland, and then once you got through to the knockout stages, you then won. You beat Wales by a single set as well in that quarterfinal. So just obviously you've got to keep your nerve in those games when they're so close. So how do you manage to do that and keep the team cohesion throughout that?
Great question. It's really, I think it's really difficult for a team like us to keep the nerve because I don't want to say we are divided. We are a really cohesive group, but there's a part of us which has years of experience behind our shoulders, and there's the other half of the team which are really new and young. So it was, I can say the difficult part was to keep everything together, to keep the young girls focused, and to keep us as well focused, because in those moments is decisive. Sorry about that. I'm quite nervous, but it's really important to stay focused and to not lose your mind. And I think in the whole tournament, it really challenged us to do that, because as you said, basically every match of us was won by just one set. I think our coach played a great part in it, because he used to come up to us during the time between each set and just saying us to stay calm, to just stay on in the game, not to worry about the people in the fan cheering up for us, or just whatever can come up to mind. Just stay on the focus, stay on the game, stay focused, and basically enjoy yourself. And that's the key. That's the key when you have to do your best, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I mean that Ireland Italy that Republic of Ireland Italy game. I watched that one because I'd heard. Unfortunately, I was in the other sports hall when it happened, and it was the first game I watched back when I got back into the UK was that game, to understand what just happened. And you're saying, sort of keeping your mindset and everything. I'm really curious as to for you guys at half time, what was said, knowing that okay, you've conceded that many sets, but if you win all the sets in the second half, you can win it, you can draw it. How did you keep your heads up but also stay composed, so that when you did start getting on a roll and winning them, you didn't go, oh, this is going to be easy, we're going to win it? Because at any moment, if Ireland did win a couple of sets, that's it, that's the game lost. How did you guys find it? How did you keep yourself just level that entire time? It's so impressive.
Well, basically, our coach told us off a little bit, just to keep us in place, because we weren't playing as we could play, so that helped us. And it really helped us playing our game, as Linnea was anticipating. We are a very aggressive team, and if the other team managed to play their game, it really gets us, and we stay on the defense, but we are not really good at playing defense, so we need to run. Our wings need to really push that. So yes, I think that was the key, to play our game, to be aggressive, to really push on the wings. And yeah, we played our game. In the first half, I don't know why we didn't, but probably it was because we weren't so in. For us, it's really difficult when we are playing just one game during the day, and that was the case for the first day. We only played that match. We warmed up for a long time. We warmed up for about 2 hours. We stayed together, but evidently it didn't help. But anyway.
Yeah, so going into like past the quarterfinals is obviously you've got Austria in the semi-finals, and it's one of those things that you guys have been just on that border to the top two for 3 years now. You know, you've had third, you've had fourth, you've had third. So, like, what do you feel that you need to do or other countries need to do to make sure that next time we can have a different final?
Huh. Yeah, it's really funny. We are always facing either England or, I mean, when we get to that point, we are always facing England or Austria in the semi-final. um, well, to be honest, I think we are in a good path. Because, for example, looking back at last year semi-final, we played against Austria as well, I think. But still, it was a really different match. I played only the first half this year, and I think we had it. We were so close, but then they slipped away on the second half. But reaching that point in which you in the first half you're tied up or almost tied up, it's really different from the past year. So I think we are getting there. Obviously, great training works, and um, the whole level of dodgeball is increasing. So also facing teams as Northern Ireland, Sweden in the third place final, it's helping in any way because we are facing teams of higher level every year. So we also get to get better from our perspective. Yeah.
You talk about the training and kind of the build up to it. Did you had a friendly against France, I believe.
Oh
Was that
yes.
just in the men's or is that the women's as well? And did it help, or is it something that teams and squads should be doing more often? Because Linnea was telling us about how they have the Scandi Cup. That we were told earlier about how Belgium were playing the Netherlands, and it's something that, especially in the UK, we could probably be doing more often, considering how Wales, Scotland, and England all share a landmass. So, is it something that helps? Is it something that you think was a benefit?
Oh, definitely. But sorry to disappoint you. I wasn't attending personally that training, but uh, many of my teammates we talked about it, and definitely it helped them. It helps them because you don't get to face your own teammates in a training. You get to face another team which has another way of playing, especially if you meet up with teams from Europe, then that you will get to face in the Europes. It will definitely help. It will help in many levels. You will see maybe you will see their game, so you will have the chance to study them earlier on. uh, for in this special occasion, it helped us because we did really bad in that training. I mean, France did really good, and we were surprised about our results because we weren't happy about them. So it made us realize, okay, we need to work harder to get to where we want to get. And yes, I think many countries, if they had the opportunity to do that, they had to. They had to also because it's a great opportunity to get together and celebrate in the third time. That's the best part of dodgeball, isn't it?
Definitely agree with that. Definitely agree. It's definitely celebrating all together. I think it's a tradition that I think we all have across all the countries in terms of that dodgeball family, that dodgeball community, and just enjoying it. I think nothing typifies that more than I was there to witness you guys doing your warm up with Austria. It was quite a warm up. Do you want to tell us a bit about that and what happened?
I mean, do you mean the little dance we did? Oh yes, yeah. Well, it was a moment to get together. After we after we said hello in the court, we just got together in a circles and danced the cotton haijo, which is a thing we in Italy do in order to I don't know, get into the game, get your head in the game, as Troy Bolton would say. And I mean, maybe because we are very young, it's something that helps us. Just do a little dance to shake off the tension, and do it with Austria. It was an incredible opportunity to, yeah, low down the nerve before the great match. And it was incredible. I mean, the Austrian girls are just on another level, and they are so amazing for giving us the opportunity to do that with them.
Very good, very good. No, it was fun to see, and it was yeah, very much typifies that European or at least dodgeball experience of having fun together. I know Sweden. Maybe I'm wrong. Someone can correct me if they've been around longer than me in Europe. But the whole dancing around in a circle and the ball going up and landing, yeah, that everyone has their own thing, and it's great that everyone gets involved. So, but yeah, any further questions from anyone else?
I just want to very briefly just touch on the third place playoff a little bit more. Just in terms of like the final set, obviously, you guys thought that you had won the game. It then comes down to a referee's decision, which goes against you guys, meaning you have to play a final overtime set. Kind of like, what did your coaches say to you before that set? What was your mindset going into? And how did you kind of reset yourselves after thinking you got the win? Right, we've got to push again for another 3 minutes.
Yeah, it was really tense, honestly. For what concerns myself, I said, okay, Nicole, reset everything and just it's 0-0. You have to start it again and you have to win it, just like you did in the last 3 minutes. But it was really difficult to hold the girls. Yes, it was, because they were already celebrating, and I don't know if in the live you can see that, but I was dead stone serious looking at them. Okay, girls, we didn't win. We just wait for the referees to say that, but don't mind actually the referees. You just stay on the court, and as you, until you hear the whistle, you just stay here. With it isn't finished. We haven't done yet. We need probably we'll need to play another set. So please stay focused. We need to do that again, just like we did it before. Nothing changes. Actually, nothing changes. Just, and it helped because in those kind of really high risk situations, we gave 100%. So as we were saying, our wings ran faster. They were really aggressive. So we played our game, and it ended up good. Thankfully, honestly, thankfully.
No, really good performance, and we will be watching. I'm sure a lot of us will be watching those matches a lot because you gave so many close games, so many intense games. I think there's a lot that we can all learn from in terms of how on earth you managed to come out on top in so many times in those close games. So yeah, congratulations, and I think we'll end it there. But really well done, and can't wait to see you next year, and obviously at the 2025 Euros in Ireland.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for having me. See you. Bye bye.
Take care. Right, now we'll move on to our final guest who we'll be talking about women's dodgeball with. Helen, welcome. How are you from Northern Ireland? Welcome to the discussion and the podcast. How are you, Helen?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you very much for having me along.
That's all good. But yeah, so Northern Ireland, it was your first Euros from what I understand. What was your perspective of how it went?
Me personally, it was my second Euros.
Second
actually,
Euros,
last year was my first one.
apologies.
Yeah, no, sorry, my bad. Yeah, so last year was my first one, which was amazing. You know, you kind of come and you go, oh wow, this is so massive, and then come again this year and go, oh, somehow it's even bigger. Like, how did that happen? so yeah, oh, it was just so much fun, so much fun.
I think to start off, my first question is, you know, you're in a group. Just speaking to Nicole from Italy, had them in the groups. How did you find that? How did you find facing Italy, the team that you guys played in that fourth playoff last year, knowing that you're going to have to face them again straight away in the groups?
Yeah, I think it was sort of similar to what she'd been saying as well. As soon as we sort of saw that the group had been drawn, we sort of saw Italy and went, oh, I think prior to that, they tend to be the ones that knock us out of competitions, Northern Ireland, I think. So for the women's division, that is. So definitely there was a lot of focus on them in training of how we were going to go into that match and how we wanted to play that match. And yeah, it was really close. I remember we were playing Norway at the same time as they were playing Ireland in Hall 1, and sort of having to try so hard to stay focused on our game because we could hear the crowd and we could hear that something like big was going on the other court, and we were going, oh, what's happening, and all went back to the hotels and watched that game that evening because we were all so, we were all trying to prepare for the game the next day. But yeah, I'm trying to remember how the game went. It's one I haven't actually. We're doing okay. And we really, again, having said we watched them play against Ireland, we really should have prepared for the fact that they were going to, they just kept up sort of the pace the whole way through the long halves, and they didn't, they were so quick on the wings, and they were so aggressive, and they were picking catches out of, we'd be throwing 3 balls at them and they'd be taking catches out of that. And so, we were kind of in awe after that game. I thought they played really well.
Yeah, like moving on, obviously it's one of those things that I think that it was really hard for you guys having lost that game to Italy, because it put you second in the group, and it meant that you had to face England in the quarterfinals this year. Like, how did you guys prepare for that mentally? Obviously, you're going up against the team that typically is kind of top or second, and do you go into that game with the mindset that you're going for the win, or is it always kind of a little bit difficult because you know how good that team is?
Yeah, that was really tricky. Obviously, yes, as soon as we'd lost to Italy, we sort of realised we were going to get, assuming we beat Ireland in the afternoon, we were going to get England for the quarterfinals, and knowing that they were so good. And I remember our coach our coaches had a long meeting in that evening, and our coach kind of calling us in beforehand. And I think it was a real kind of, it was one of the things that I think sort of stands us in very good stead as a team, was the fact that the coaches had sort of sat down and looked at it and gone, right, okay, we're going to change our game plan based on the team that we were going to play. I thought they were really we tried very hard to be very flexible and to sort of say, right, okay, this is how we played against Italy. We were hoping that we were going to get, top our group, and we were going to have a different team in the quarterfinals, but we're not. We're going to have England. This is okay. We've got sort of thoughts and plans on how we're going to play them. And so they sort of sat us down and talked us through how they wanted us to play. And I think absolutely we were going for the win. We backed ourselves that we thought we could do that. And I thought it was a really enjoyable game. I think, right the way through the first half, I think we led parts of the first half and into the second half as well. It never, it felt like we were within touching distance, and that, you get told you're going to play England and you go, oh, well, okay, tournament over. That's okay. We've had a good run. It's been fun. But, I thought our captains and our coaches really kind of rallied us and said, no, come on, let's go. Let's really go for this. And it was so fun. I watch it back and cringe at the number of catches I threw, but I also really enjoy watching it back and see how amazingly we all played and how amazingly England played as well. And I think I played one set against them last year, but this was the first time I'd ever played against them, and to play against such a same as playing against Italy, really sort of such a powerhouse for women's dodgeball. It was a really good experience.
More of an NI specific question. So I was lucky enough to be in the interview, or to ask Adam Hill the question where he turned around and said that we're going to win the gold medal for the men, and Northern Ireland last year being so dominant in the mixed. How was those influences, and the influences of kind of just the sheer confidence from the men playing the way that they're playing, the mixed team as a whole being so strong last year? I assume that's had a positive impact on the women's side of the game, because you mentioned the coaches, and I believe is Sean one of your coaches, and kind of how's that influenced? Because it's really interesting looking at teams about how their men's mixed and women's independently work, but just seeing how they seep across and how they influence each other. So how has that worked? And then I assume it's been really positive.
Yeah, it has. It's such a sort of small community in NI. We have a few players that come over from England as well, but the bulk of us all play club in NI, and there's only 4 clubs, and we're all based within the one city as well. So everyone knows each other really well, and it is really infectious. That sort of that energy that the guys and the mixed team brought from last year. I do remember there being sort of all very well meaning, but there being a few jokes kind of from some of my friends being like, oh, the boys sitting there with their gold medal in the mix with their gold, and they're going, oh, girls bronze, really? Which all totally totally as a joke. And bronze was, I think, the first medal we'd ever got for the women's. But they sort of said, okay, your turn this year, your turn this year. So there was that kind of energy in them, sort of encouraging us and telling us, we can do it. And yeah, in terms of the coaches, Sean's head coach for the whole squad. So Sean Douglas, he would be involved in the women's coaching. And we also have Will Wilton, who coaches us, who's sort of a specialist in women's fitness, and we have Ryan Hollinger as well. So the sort of the 3 of them together, the amount of time and effort they've put in this year into sort of reviewing footage and coming up with different tactics for us. So yeah, I think there was a lot of momentum coming off NI doing so well last year, and obviously we had a bit of a we dropped a bit this year. We went from 3rd to 6th place, but I think we'll just take that as we'll take that, and that we'll add that into the momentum as well, and sort of say, right, okay, let's the men have done really well again. The mix came 3rd again. The women's we've dropped down the rankings a little bit, but we're going to sort of galvanise and we're going to really push forward.
I mean, given how the draw went and you're playing England and it did go quite close, you were only 3 sets off. You were only 1 set realistically being almost as good as you could be with that game against Czechia for 5th place. Outside of that draw against England into the quarters, you very close to finishing 5th. How was that game against Czechia? Because a one set loss in knockout dodgeball is tough to take, but you guys are both very, very experienced and very good dodgeballing women's teams. So how was it? How did you find that play style going up against them in that 5th, 6th playoff?
Yeah, I thought that was a really close match. I think we started quite well, and I think fatigue hit in for us quite badly. I think it was something we had talked about afterwards as well, just a few of us, about sort of like the mental fatigue and things as well, that we kind of went, right, this is our last game. And I think, yeah, they were so good. We had, obviously, if people have watched that one, there's a really long stoppage because they had one of the girls from Czechia really badly hurt her knee, and there was a really long pause there where she had to, the ambulance had to come for her in the end, and thankfully she was all right and she made it to the prize giving at the end and everything. And I think it was really amazing to play against them and to watch them kind of really rally after that. And gosh, I'm trying to remember, we were all so tired. It was sort of, you kind of enter like this kind of haze. It was it really kind of shows, I think someone said at the start of this section about the women's, the fact that there are now so many teams in the women's division that are of such a really good quality. We'd never played Czechia before, and we sort of weren't expecting to play them this time around, and we'd watched them play a little bit, and I think they really like amazed us with how strong their throwing was, and their standing counters in particular as well. Like, they were just so quick. You'd release and think, okay, right, now I need to get back, and by the time that thought has crossed your brain, you're out, because their reaction speed and their throwing accuracy was just so good. So I don't know, I'd really love to play them another time around, actually, because it felt like it was really close and that we were really evenly matched.
Moving forward, we've got the North European Championships next year, and also Worlds. Is it kind of like one of those things that you're already starting to have discussions about what your new tactics are going to be based on how you've done this year? Or are you kind of like you're in a down period, but you know that that's going to be coming? Because I know that Northern Ireland, one of the things that you have is you guys are so good at coming up with new tactics. So just kind of your perspective on what you're going to do in terms of building towards next year.
Yeah, so we kind of have had a few weeks off, and then there's been sort of a recent kind of flurry of activity in all the group chats and everything. We're going to have new trials in about 3 weeks, I think, to get a few new people into the squad. Hopefully, definitely kind of post Euros, there's this kind of enthusiasm and buzz within the clubs. You get home and everybody's really excited about it. And ooh, when's the next trials? Do you think I could play? So that's really good. We're going to hopefully have a few new faces next year. So yeah, training starting up again gently, sort of in the next month. And we've also had as well sort of feedback sessions and things like that, kind of forms sent out around for anonymous feedback and things. So the coaches kind of do a collection, I suppose, of sort of thoughts and opinions and feedback from everybody. And then they'll have a period, I assume, where they'll kind of process all of that and think about what they want to change. But yeah, not sort of trying to kind of keep going. NEC's Northern European Championships, I think it's in April. So it's quite, it's quite soon. I think at one point we talked about having a bit of a break until December, January, and then looked at the date of that and it was like, oh no, that's quite close. Let's not take the foot off the gas too much. And then Worlds obviously as well, which is really, really exciting. We watched all the GB and the Island games and last year when it was in Canada, but I think this year to be going as an NI squad will be so exciting. And as well, especially to be going to Austria, like I've never been, and so we're all already planning our holiday afterwards as well.
Very cool. I mean, any other questions? I can't think of any, to be honest. The only one I could possibly think of is about the quarters. Or not, well, not the quarters, the 5th to 8th playoff when you played Netherlands. They'd just come off a heartbreaking loss to Sweden in the quarterfinals. You guys had run into England and really thrown it at all. From a perspective, like, other nations, they look at, that run to the third, fourth. I know, Italy and Sweden did. But for you guys, how do you pick yourself up after, such a tough quarterfinals and still know you've got 2 more games to play against very good nations, top 8 nations in Europe? How do you look at that? How do you bring yourself back? Because if I'm not mistaken, those games were on the same day, weren't they, as well?
Yeah, that was a really tough game for us, actually, I think, against the Netherlands. I remember really clearly trying to warm up for that game, and it was at the same time as our men's squad were playing England in their semi-final. And so trying to sort of, I think, I remember our coaches sort of telling us all to focus about, every 5 minutes, because we'd all be kind of going over and peering through the windows to see how the guys were doing. And so obviously, they did really well. So in a way, yes, we actually went into that game on a high because we knew that they'd done, they'd won their match and they were through to their final. And then we really struggled against the Netherlands. So I don't know whether that was a focus thing that we needed to really kind of knuckle down and actually focus on the job at hand rather than getting distracted and thinking about how the guys had done. The Netherlands, we played against them last year, and they're so lovely. They're such lovely girls. Like a few of them would be very good friends with girls from the NI squad. So it's always quite a kind of, it's both a very competitive but quite an amicable game, if that makes sense. Like I remember there being a lot of laughter afterwards and a lot of trading shirts and things because everybody gets on so well. I remember as well, for us it was after the mixed semi-final, I think. So we knew that the mixed we weren't going to get through to the final. And I remember the mixed girls in particular who'd played that match, sort of, the likes of Shannon Hill, Kirsty Key, Sarah McCloskey, I think had played that one a lot as well. It was right at the end of the day. They were kind of on their last legs, and our coach sort of didn't start them on because they were so tired, and then brought them on later through the game, and them sort of having to dig so deep to find the energy to come back in that game. was really it was really tough, but we got there and we did it.
Yeah, for sure. And I think we now got a really good insight to the nations that are fighting for the top spots. But we actually didn't have from the top two nations so far had inputs, and I think we should also really talk a little bit about England. I mean, that hasn't happened in a long time. So Austria being there at the top spot for, I don't know, the last 5 years or so. So what are your thoughts on the final and that England finally managed to win it in the women's division?
Shall I speak on it first? So yeah,
Sure.
for me, England went for a slightly different approach. Obviously, like in terms of like their play style, were very similar, but for me, it was really the players they put on court, because they brought on some more sort of strong middle players that they didn't have on sort of last year in that Austria game. And to me, that was something that really made the difference there, because it meant that team was a lot more balanced and cohesive. But even saying that, it was an easy game at all from either side, and it was really backwards and forwards. And I think I remember saying at the time that it wasn't even, sometimes the sets themselves weren't close. It was really dominated by one team or the other. So that was quite interesting to me, that it wasn't that every set was close, but the actual score itself was close.
Yeah, I think for me, like watching it, it was a real tactical display, and I think also, I think to an extent, there's a lot to look at Austria and what happened. I know during the competition, Austria just played insanely well all the way through, and they, Max, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there was quite a few rotations of new players coming through, some younger players, and just still showing that they are absolute, like, just units of dodgeball prowess, like, just insanely good. It was incredible to watch, but, going through that, I think that meant when it came down to the final, I think, Max, we talked about it a bit before, but it was some of that decision making that really made the decisions or like the result really close. It wasn't like you say, Emily, like, it was back and forth in terms of sets, but in terms of both teams are so good when they're up that they can really capitalize on it. And England did that by targeting certain players and really making sure that some of their best players were the ones that were left into the very end, where it's like, hey, look, we know you're amazing. We're just going to ignore you, and you're going to have to beat four of us, which is really difficult to do regularly, especially after 4 days of dodgeball. So I think that worked in England's favour. But then Austria, you just, like, when you're that good, you can just, win sets, and, if you get up on England, they can hold it out. And I think that's what made it such a interesting final, and really came down to, in the end, that one set, which sort of, to me, in terms of decision making, that set that split, I think it was the 14-all or the 16-14 set, that's what made the difference. Like how that went, how Austria tried to punish everything, and the balls went flying, and catches were being made left, right, and centre. That sort of that's what the final was. It sounds a bit cynical to say it comes down to one set, but that sort of encapsulated the whole match in one set, really, for me.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting at that level to see if the teams are close from their talents, from their strengths, from their abilities, and what decisions are you making in these crucial sets that decide the games. So we've seen it in other games and other competitions this year and in the years before, is to say, okay, what do you do when it's 12-12 and you have 2 minutes 30 left? What decisions are you making? Which players are making what decisions? And that's kind of the really interesting part of it, to say, okay, there's the difference between champions and second place. And there you have to perform at your highest level, and that's I think what England did in those in the set when it was like 10-12 or 12-10 for England, for that matter. to say, okay, what decisions are we gonna make to make that set and win this match? They were just amazing in that set. So I think obviously you can say, yeah, but if I don't know, if Austria had won this set in the first half or this set in the second half, they wouldn't have been in that situation. But that doesn't matter because you end up in that situation. And once you're there, then you have to execute, and that's what that for me was amazing to see, because I haven't seen that from the English women team the tournaments before, because there were close finals before. There were, I don't know, overtime finals, one set different finals in previous competitions, but then it all came down to those decisions, and they weren't able to execute those decisions in these specific sets. But this year they did, and that was for me the main difference. Why they won, and this was from an observer perspective and not being now from an Austrian perspective, I think is really good. From an Austrian perspective, obviously, I would have I rooted for the other team to be honest, but yeah. So in general, it's good to see, and what we heard from the girls before to wrap it up from the other nations, I think. There is a chance within the next 2 years that the final is not England-Austria, but it's up to them to make the progress and to see if that can be Italy or Northern Ireland or Sweden or Czech Republic or even another nation we haven't talked about, maybe Spain. Who knows? I mean, if they keep making the same progress as they have done in the mixed, why not Spain? So that's interesting to see.
Are we hearing early predictions there, Max? Of
I'm not going to go into the game of predictions.
Ireland
your
2025 final. Spain have booked their place. But yeah, any final thoughts from you, John, on the women's competition?
Yeah, it's kind of parroting what yourself, Emily, and Max have all said. Just to kind of highlight the focus on the shift in mentality of that English women's team, chatting to some of them during the build-up, is that they really wanted to kind of take away from the team that historically had known only really losing to Austria. And if we look at, I'm going to highlight two players here from the English team, Alice and Karen. Karen, who got MVP, and Alice, who has been doing the rounds in that Dodgeball highlights clip in which she makes the two amazing catches. But for both players in the England shirt, this has only been their second Euros. I think they've both played for other countries pre-COVID, but post-COVID, they've represented England. And my personal opinion is that Alice was exceptional during that final. And it kind of came down to those clutch moments where it was just raw skill that the Austrian women didn't do anything wrong there. I mean, any of us here would release at that point. You have a player in the neutral zone or just outside the neutral zone, you'd release. But Alice just managed to make a catch in an impossible position. And when the two teams are that evenly matched and that close, it comes down to those little moments and those clutch moments. And you need your players firing. So I think England's approach of just switching it up a bit, it worked. And they've got newer players and they're getting into a new generation of playing. And I hope that in the future, as Max, you've said, we do have newer teams coming into that top two battle. But if England can regenerate and kind of have this new approach and continue forward with it, it'd be brilliant, because it shows that a team that has really only lost to Austria other than the 2018 Worlds final, which I say that confusingly because I wasn't playing dodgeball at that time. That was before my time. So I've only heard stories about it. But for that to be the only real time, and then for Austria to be relatively undefeated within a European setting, if it carries on this competition but in a fresh light, then I'm all for it, and it would be brilliant to see other teams challenge.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. Right, I think that wraps up the women's competition for the 2023 Euro Dodgeball Championship.